Yo, what's up guys, the Insane Game Freak here to bring you a chapter review. And I could have easily just done a Viz thing, but I'm in a One Piece mood again, and I want to talk about One Piece. So, this is my review thoughts on chapter 729 of One Piece. Particularly because there's a lot of interesting things that were brought up in this. Well, it was brought up last chapter and this chapter, so I may be referencing things in the last chapter, but this mainly will be about this chapter. So let's just kind of get into it. The first thing I want to address is the cover story. So, we know that Drake is fine, but he doesn't work for Kaido because this cover page kind of proves it, because it's like, well, he was dragging Caribou away, and then he kind of let him live and everything was cool. I think. I'm not sure. It looks like, actually, I think he's being taken away on Drake's ship. Because I see his brother and his crew are still on the island. So I guess Drake has taken Caribou for whatever reason. I'm not sure. That will be interesting as that comes up later. Also, the fact that Drake is still hanging around the island and nothing has been accomplished or changed is another interesting fact. But that's besides the point. So getting into the chapter itself, also another thing I want to address, well, two things actually from the previous chapter. The first thing is Violet and Rebecca's relation. Because I think I saw Sawyer's review and Sawyer seemed a little confused about that. The way I understand it is that Violet is the princess and Rebecca is the granddaughter of the king. That means, well, Violet is the king's daughter, so logic would state that, and we're pretty sure that the toy soldier is Rebecca's father, so by that logic, the toy soldier is probably, King Riku probably has a son and a daughter, the daughter being Violet, and the son being the toy soldier, because we know Rebecca's mother is dead. So that means Rebecca's mom is someone that the father married outside of the family. That also means that Violet is Rebecca's aunt, which is very weird to me considering how the women in One Piece look, which implies that that Violet is a lot older than what we think she is. At least that's my guess, because when we saw the flashback of the Riku Kingdom being taken over, we know that Violet looked like she was like around her maybe young, early teens probably. So that's the way I view it, is that Violet is Rebecca's aunt and Rebecca is the granddaughter, meaning she is I guess she would be the next princess in line after Violet. Which then also brings up the whole Nakama thing in question again, because originally I was going to say, because like, oh, she's going to be like Vivi. And then I was like, wait a minute. She can't be like Vivi now because she's not the princess, she's the granddaughter. She's like the secondary princess, I guess you would say, next to Violet. But we'll see how that plays out. And the second thing is the fact that you can see how relaxed Robin has gotten with the crew now, to the point where I think last chapter was the first time we ever saw her make a shocked face. Like, she's never really been in the gag reaction department of One Piece, so it's kind of weird to see her go, because I'm just like, well, that's new. For Robin, anyway, I thought that was new. Granted, I'm probably just pointing that out because I'm a fanboy, but I wanted to bring it up because I thought it was interesting. So, alright, officially getting into the chapter, we start off with the whole, to address the Bellamy thing, I'm going to agree the fact that this is stupid. Why, it's like Bellamy, it's like it's been 2 years and you have literally barely changed it all. It's like you don't seem to disrespect it. A lot of people find this ridiculous. It's like, why would you try to think you could beat Luffy now? And on top of all of that, it's like, you still seem desperate about it. It's kind of like, it was like Don Flamingo, and we still don't even understand how Don Flamingo gave you a second chance, considering how ruthless this man seems to be half the time. Like, why were you done with it? But then again, we never actually got to see Sarkis attack you, so is there an implication that something happened right as Sarkis being controlled by Don Flamingo attacked you? Did something happen that would allow you to be in this position? Don't know. But getting off of that, you were introduced to Dellinger, who I'm going to say is Boy, I'm gonna say Dellinger is a boy that's just into cross-dressing. That's all I'm gonna say. Or he's into high heels. I don't fucking know. But the whole thing with him being like, well, I guess we gotta kill you now because you have fucked up too many times. Luffy's gonna end up saving him later. I can already see that happening. And then Bellamy's gonna renege on it. Like this, if anything, this scene is just to show that Bellamy is still stupid and Luffy has to convert him onto his side like he always does. Because we still don't even know where Bellamy's admiration for Don Flamingo comes from, I don't think. Like, we don't know anything about Bellamy's past. Granted, I don't think anyone really gives a shit about Bellamy at this point. I'm just saying. Now, we have the fight with Don Flamingo in Law, and this is interesting for two different reasons. Because a lot of people have been bringing up, like, oh shit, you know, he shot Law 3 times at the end of the chapter. It's like, oh my god. But here's the thing I thought was interesting. Why is it that during the first part of this fight, you know, where Law is fighting Don Flamingo and everything's kind of going on, Don Flamingo seems not to give a fuck this entire fight. He, like, the first half where they're fighting on the bridge, he is just fucking with him. Like, he even gets cut in the face, and Don Flamingo seems to have no fucks given. To the point where he's having a conversation with Diamante about sending, what is it? Who is it he's sending? He's sending, Lao G's group to the Smile Factory. It's just like, I mean, obviously then they do the whole gag with Diamante about how he's pretty easy to manipulate because he's like, oh, but gee, he says some nice words and it just makes the man want to do shit. I don't fucking know. But, like, the point is that you see Don Flamingo not giving a fuck this entire fight. But for some reason, he's really pissed off at the end of the chapter to the point where he knocked him back a ridiculous, like, Don Flamingo, I think we can all agree that Don Flamingo at this point is so much stronger than Law that he didn't need to do what he did to Law at the end of this chapter. Like, he didn't need to throw that motherfucker across the damn country and then shoot him 3 times. But if you notice, he's pissed off at the end of the chapter. Well, for a scene, and then he gets cocky again. Is that just because Law said that, because he said the thing about the Willa D? Or is there more to it? My guess with the simple answer is that he's just pissed off that he made a Willa D reference, as if that changes anything. By the way, we don't even know how Don Flamingo feels about that Willa D thing. Because it's not like he hasn't observed it. I just find it weird. But, or was there something off screen said, which might lead into Law's flashback that we know we're gonna get, which is why a lot of people don't believe he's dead, because it's like, it's fucking, it's older for one, and two, there's too much to Law that we need to know left before we get it. Then again, they could do what Ace did, but at that point, it would be no point in it. Like when they did the whole flashback with Ace, it made sense because it was supposed to just relay how much this shit affected Luffy. To do it now wouldn't work, so Law's probably fine. Well, fine is the best way to describe it. And then we get into this other section that I thought was really interesting, which is where we see that the Marine officer, I think his name is Bastille, obviously knows that Luffy and Zoro are here now. Like, they know the Straw Hats are here. But they're like, we're not really trying to worry about him, we're trying to worry about other people. And they're trying to remember the names of the people who've been turned into toys. I think like Don Jing Zhao and Sai and Haposai, I believe. Or is that the name of the country? I'm not sure. The other warriors from that group being turned into toys and they can't remember their names. This brings up a question. Does that mean that as soon as they turn into toys, the whole mind wiping thing is automatic? And if it is that really a person doing that? Because it's way too fucking specific for it to just be one person. Like, that's my whole thing. Like I can, if it's a devil fruit ability, that is a really, really specific devil fruit ability that you can. And also, how would you know that? Like, it had to be a mixture. It just seems way too weird for it to be just one person with one ability. Like, even for One Piece standards, that just seems really too damn specific. Because this shit seems to happen really automatically, and I was just kind of like, wait, they already don't know who these people are? Also, another question we'll bring up is, if you leave Dressrosa, do you have the ability not to remember anymore? Like people that they supposedly don't know anymore. If you were to leave Dressrosa, would that still be the case, or would you remember everything? That's another interesting situation that's come up. I'm curious about that too. But getting past that, that's just something I thought was really interesting, and I didn't hear anyone say anything about. Is that move seems really fucking... Like, that ability seems really fucking specific for just one person. Which makes me feel like the Smile Factory may have a secondary meaning besides that. Don't know. And then, I guess the biggest bulk of the chapter would be the whole conversation with the Straw Hats in their respective areas. And this weird sense of character development for Frankie. Where it's like... Technically... Law's plan was just to destroy the factory and to get the fuck out. Like, you didn't really need to, you don't really need to deal with the army. But now that Robin, Usopp, and Frankie have gotten involved with the army, it's like, Frankie's like, I don't want to just let them, I don't want to just set them up for failure. It's like, I don't want to leave them to lose. Like, Frankie's obviously been touched by the Tonto and their story, and the Toy Soldier and his story, and the tragedy of the Dressrosa / the Riku Kingdom. And you're just kind of like, it's interesting that it's Frankie. I mean, granted, it wasn't like, we knew from the other chapters that Robin was interested in too, and obviously Usopp was in his mode. But I just find it interesting that it's Frankie that's kind of more into this shit than anyone else out of those three. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Which obviously means that what's going to happen now is that Frankie, Usopp, Robin, and the Tonto and the Toy Soldier are going to go ham and just start blowing up shit. Also, I would have mentioned something I know a lot of people mentioned. Oda made a mistake. If anyone's noticed, I believe it's on page, it would be... Is it the second to last page? No, it's the third to last page, where you see where Luffy gives the where Frankie says, "And I can't abandon them to defeat." And then he's like, "Frankie, give them your worst." The scene where you see Kinemon, Luffy, and Zoro's missing his mustache. I just found that funny. And the reason why I know it's supposed to be there is because in the next scene, in the next page, he has it back on again. So I guess Oda forgot to draw his mustache, which is weird because it's such a big panel. It's just weird to see they forgot to draw the mustache. I don't know. The other thing I guess to mention right before we get to the end, where Law gets shot, is the whole decision to have Sanji's group go back to Dressrosa to fuck shit up. Which, it's Straw Hat fashion, but to do that now seems really fucking dangerous. Especially as I guess they don't know this. Well, no, Sanji knows this. That you can't expect to just fuck this country up and fight Don Flamingo at the same time and destroy the factory by yourselves. Unless it's going to be one of those gang up fights where Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji kind of go. And we still have to worry about Kanjuro, by the way, anyone forgot. We still have to save his ass. Because at the end of the chapter, obviously, Law gets shot in front of Luffy, Kinemon, and Zoro. And now it's like, are we just going to fucking say fuck the tournament because now you shot Trappy in front of me? I'm going to beat the shit out of you? Granted, I don't think Don Flamingo realizes that, Luffy's right there. He will in a minute, but I don't think he realizes it now. And even if he does, his whole plan was to what? Get the Straw Hats fucked over in the Coliseum, right? So, does Don Flamingo just not give a fuck now? It seems like he doesn't give a fuck. That's why I said he seemed pissed off in the end. Because it was like, why are you angry all of a sudden to the point where you want to shoot him? Where you could have easily killed him in other ways without sending him across. You're obviously mad either at the Willa D thing or he did something off screen. And we might be going into a Law flashback relatively soon because right before Law, quote unquote, passes out / dies, whatever you want to call it, he says the name Korra, and you're kind of just like, yeah, that's probably flashback setup. Like, the flashback for Law is probably coming really soon. Something tells me it'll probably happen during the middle of Don Flamingo fighting the Straw Hats. Because at this point, it's like, either Luffy is going to straight out attack Don Flamingo. Because as much as I want to sit here and say Zoro, if Sanji couldn't take Don Flamingo straight off and Law can't take Don Flamingo straight off, Zoro's probably not going to be able to beat him. Or Luffy. Like, I think Don Flamingo is legitimately stronger than, is the strongest person on this island, maybe next to, like, Fujitora. And if that's the case, it brings up the question, what happens now? Obviously, we have, like, 2 weeks to figure that out, but still, what happens now? Because it's like, we can't just simply go, well, you know, Luffy's just going to go back to the tournament like everything's cool. Like, obviously, the way this is probably going to go, I don't know how this is going to go. And it depends on how quickly the Tonto and the soldier mobilize. Because I could easily say, if the Tonto and the soldier in Frankie's group mobilizes really quick, and their goal right now is to take down Don Flamingo, correct? So are they just going to bum rush Don Flamingo, or are they going to have, like, Usopp handle the Tonto while bum rushing Don Flamingo, and Frankie and Robin are going to go destroy the factory? I'm not sure, because we still have to figure out... Like, there's a lot of things still up in the air about what the fuck is about to happen. I can easily see the tournament getting interrupted right now, which kind of sucks, because knowing Oda, he also has the potential just to go back into that Rebecca Cavendish stuff, where they're fighting currently, and just not give a fuck about anything. I don't know. But it was really interesting. I thought it was a really interesting chapter. There's too much up in the air right now. There really is. Because Law and them are in an alliance, meaning Zoro's going to do something. Like, I expect Zoro, if no one else moves, I know Zoro has to move. And they still have to get Kanjuro. I feel like it's like when you think about it, Dressrosa's only been about 28 chapters, for those who don't realize. Like, Dressrosa started like 700, 701. And we're not even nowhere close to being done yet. Like, there is so much shit going on. Which is why this arc is interesting. It's like a tournament arc, but the focus is barely on the fucking tournament. Well, not barely, but the interesting shit is happening outside of the tournament. But then again, maybe that's the truth of all tournament arcs. I'm thinking Zoro and Kinemon are going to have to handle Don Flamingo for a little while. Or at least get out of there with fucking Law. And Luffy might get reckless. But we'll see. But please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. This has been Vincent Ginfrick. Life's a game. Play to win. And I'll get you guys later. Peace. One Piece. Dawn, you had her win, and then she lost twice. And we're supposed to feel sorry for her because